You cannot get a job without experience, but you cannot get experience without a job. So you get stuck in this loop. Like, what do you do? What do you do? And then even for those of you, because there are some of you that may have come from Nigeria, even with experience, like, oh my God, I work in Guaranteed Trust Bank. And it's until you get here that they will not tell you, sorry, your Guaranteed Trust Bank is not actually a bank. You get what I mean? Like, we don't recognize that in the UK. So they then tell you it's all about, it's about the UK experience and all that. So I was so frustrated because plus I didn't want to go back home. And then, and people start telling you stuff, right? They'll say things like, oh, you can work in care, or you can work in McDonald's, you can work in care. Like, that is what we all do. Now, I have absolutely nothing against those kind of roles, because sometimes you have to do what you have to do if you have bills. Some of you may have kids. You don't want to, leave with family. And even if you leave with family, you want to contribute, because you know what? Living with a family in the UK is very different to living with a family back in Africa, like completely different, right? So, so when people told me that you could do that, I'm like, yeah, guys, it's not like I'm proud. Like, I don't want to do it. But my dad had said I'm going to come back home. So one time, out of frustration, I'm not even sure Chibi knows the story, I went to sign up with an agency, read agency. I'm like, okay, maybe I can do typing and, admin or whatever, carry files around. And so they were like, oh, there's a job. I'm like, okay, like, what's the job? They're like, it's at Heathrow. I'm like, okay. If you guys remember, there was a time that that Nigerian guy, that underpants bomber that wanted to bomb a plane using his underpants, that I took some cleaning things, liquids onto the plane. So it was around that time. And because of that, the airlines and airports had just recently introduced this no liquid above 100 ml, right? So they needed people that would stand there.
Can you do that job?
Listen. So they needed people that would stand there and tell people, Now, I had recently just finished from Unilag. This was in summer, right? I'd recently just finished from Unilag, like literally maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Wow. So very much, Unilag people were like everywhere in the UK.
Wow.
So I was hoping that they would put me in like Terminal 4, like flights going to Croatia or Lithuania, where I wouldn't know anybody. Guess what? Terminal 3 at night, Virgin Atlantic to Lagos. I was there. So I wasn't even like, you could pretend that you were not really working there if you could just blend and mingle.
Wow.
No, they gave me this high visibility jackets, like the green one, to wear. So that there was no confusion that you were an airport staff.
Oh my God.
And then it was a 12-hour shift. I had to stand and tell people, hey. And so I remember that night, people will walk past and then they'll come back. They'll be like, Buki Adisa.
Oh my God, but look at you. I know.
Like, Buki Adisa, what's going on? Why are you here? And I'll be like, yeah, it's a job. They'll be like, but we thought you were coming to the UK to join your husband. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the UK. They're like, what's this high visibility jacket you're wearing? It was terrible.
Goodness.
It was terrible. And so that day I knew that, like, God will have to help me, because manual labor jobs are not for me. So I didn't even resign. I just didn't show up the next day. I'm like, you know what? I would take my chances. I'm not coming back.
Wow.
But I did that for like a day, and I didn't go back. But I then got a break. Like, I got my break because I then got a call about like a week after that, and and then the guy said to me, oh, we've seen your CV on somewhere. I'm like, okay, great. And it was like, oh, this is for a contract job, 2 weeks job. I said, okay. He said, can you use the Blueprint software? Now, before that time, I don't think I'd ever heard of the Blueprint software. So I said to him, listen, by the time I start this job, I'll be able to use the Blueprint software. It was like, okay, how much do you want? It was a daily rate. And I told him how much I wanted. And he said, okay, fine. Can you start next week, Wednesday? So I quickly Googled Blueprint software. Where can I get the training? I booked myself on the training on Tuesday, and I started this job on Wednesday. And I say that to say this, that, sometimes life will present you with opportunities, but you can't say no. Like, I could have said, oh, no, I don't know how to use Blueprint software. I didn't lie, and I didn't say I know how to use Blueprint software. I said to him, by the time I start this job next week, Wednesday, I will be able to use the Blueprint software. So that's how I started my first role as a company secretarial assistant. I was dealing to, there were 2 companies. They were selling a subsidiary, and I was on the subsidiary side working with the lawyers and helping them with the books and records. And that hence why I'm there to know how to use the software. And it was meant to be a 2 weeks contract, and I was there for 9 months.